Good morning, Michael.
Good morning. How are we?
All right, I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good. Doing good.
Doing
Enjoying
good.
some January cold winter blasts. So anyone who is watching in any part of the country that is not below freezing, um, good times. Good
That's
times.
right.
I wish we were there with you.
That's right. Well, I want to jump in today because we have a really exciting day. We have Michael Brown going to be joining us here on stage in just a moment. But before that, Michael, will you tell our audience why experience matters and what's happening and why we do the show?
Yeah, so as we dig into all these big topics, the companies who are winning are focusing on experience. They're the ones who have caught up to all the trends that are happening in the world that say you can make better revenue, you can retain your customers, you can retain your employees if and only if you focus on experience. And by the way, people are wanting experiences even when they're buying products. And so we're here to gather as many experts as we can to explore all this and to change the world by creating an experience revolution.
I love it. Experience revolution. See, I used that this week too, and wow, I love it. And hey, we invite everybody that's out there listening, ask questions today. We've already got some good notes coming in. Good morning, friends from sunny Las Vegas. Kat, our very dear friend, another dear friend of mine. 37 degrees in Kennewick, Washington, David Altos. So awesome to have each of them. Well, you know what? I am going to just jump right in. I want to make sure we have plenty of time today with our guests. Michael Brown has spent the last 2.5 decades leading customer and employee experience design for some of the world's largest omni-channel marketplace brands. He currently serves as the chief executive officer of Honeycomb Fitness, where he, his team, and the biggest brands, celebrities, and organizations in the $4.5 trillion wellness industry are tasked with bringing the first physical plus digital marketplace of its type to market later this year. He's a father of 4 and a relentless neurodiversity advocate. Welcome to the stage, Michael Brown. Da-da-da. There he is. Should we play the pop music for him or like rock star music here?
Yes.
Right? So you want rock star music? There you go. There you go, Michael.
There you go.
So,
What's up, y'all? Good to see you.
Hey, buddy. Good to see you. Great to have you here with us today.
Oh, right.
Are you at home? Where are you at today?
I am stuck in the basement. My wife kind of feeds me food to kind of keep me down here. Yeah, it's a fun experience. It's a really fun experience. No, I'm in sunny Pittsburgh, so it is cold.
She's feeding you now, because before she wasn't feeding you. So you get food now down in the basement. So well, yeah. Awesome. Well, we're going to jump right in, Michael, because we don't have a ton of see, I've got Mike. We're going to call you Mike, and I have Michael. So there we go.
That's why I put Mike.
That's Mike. Where you go. That's right. Cool. So, Mike, that's right. You've played several different C-suite roles in your career and in the experience world. So how do these various roles in the C-suite intersect with creating people-centric experiences in unique ways?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, look, it's always I focus on the experience. I mean, plain and simple, full stop. That's what I do, because I believe that there's a group in a company that's focused on the operations. There's a group in the company that's focused on the finance. But at the end of the day, we could sell to everyone in the world. And at the end of the day, we could build every effing product in the world. And if no one can use it and it doesn't solve a need, it's sort of worthless. Not sort of, it's actually worthless. So, that's why I started the major when I was in college. That's what led me throughout my tenure. And that's what kind of led me to my current position as well. I've always been a person that maybe it's my ADD side that has to connect emotionally to people. So finding out how to connect and what matters to people is the only thing I know how to think about. I mean, look, as the CEO role, Shawn, I've got to look now at modeling and assumptions and a bunch of crap that I don't know. And I lose my mind. I have no idea how to tell it. But if I tell the story of how it impacts a human, it makes sense. And so that's what I've done. And that's my career.
I love it. I love it. Well, you talked about this, and I think this is a good thing to call out, because you said, you're in your new role. You're doing things you don't normally and haven't done in your career, right? But you tell a story around it. I think we need to dig into that more, because I think C-suite gets really scared, especially when you talk about experience, to say, I need to tell a story. Or what does that story look like? What would you give advice if you're CEO now?
Yeah.
What would you tell other CEOs?
What would I tell other CEOs?
Yeah, around telling a story, around experience.
Oh, look, most CEOs are great telling a story. Most CEOs are great telling a story around experience. Most CEOs suck at listening to other stories. And that's the trick. Right? Like I mean, look at any CEO who goes on stage. Like, we all sit there and tell you what our customers are going to do and how we're going to change the world and why it's dramatically different. We know how to tell stories. This is why 1 in every 3 CEOs comes from the sales background. It happens. But the problem is, look, as a CEO, Shawn, here's what I've come to realize. I have so much, I don't want to add too many expletives in your podcast or in the show here. I have so much stuff coming at me every day. Some of it is just granular, like how much real estate can I allocate per square foot, assuming that I have pillars in the way, right? Like, there's so many details that come at me that you telling me a story is, quite frankly, confusing and overwhelming me. So, what I actually encourage my team to do is tell me a story, that makes sense and covers the so what. Actually, tell me something that's pressing and needed to me, and then tell me the story behind it. The problem is that otherwise I have to sit back and then I have to listen to the story. I got to translate. What are you trying to get at? What do you want? What's this mean? What's this going to impact the 20 or 30 other things I have to think about? Right. And then how is that going to impact the story that I need to tell? It's really this kind of convoluted thing. But to answer your question, my advice to other CEOs is I don't have any other advice. CEOs are great at telling stories. My advice is to the people trying to tell the story to the CEO. Know your audience.
Ooh, know your audience. Well, so we're going to jump into something. We have a stoke for you.
A what?
And then I'm going to let Michael take it away and ask you some questions around it. So, but there's a quote from Colin Shaw, founder and CEO of Beyond Philosophy. He said this on our podcast, The Combustion Chronicles. But for a lot of organizations, I think that they just think, well, everybody else is doing it, so we better do it. And they jump on the bandwagon, and the reality is that because of that, they don't do it very well. And he was talking about customer experience, employee experience in general. So, Michael, I'm going to let you take it away and ask Mike some questions here.
Yeah, so when Colin was talking about that, he actually said that on our podcast, and it really struck a nerve with us because we hear it all the time, right? You've seen it all the time, right? We're just doing the experience because it's the cool thing to do, or they saw it in a Forbes article, and whatever leader says, yeah, we need to do that, and they put something on their website about this is who we are, but it's really just a bunch of crap because they're not doing anything. So what do you make of that? What do you make of the C-suite leaders, and maybe even get into the different ones? Like, what does the CFO lens look like? What does the CEO, what does the COO lens look like? As they try to engage experience, but they don't make decisions that back up their talk. They're quick to talk about it, quick to put it on their website, quick to put it up as a goal, and then all their decisions reflect something else. What do you make of that?
I think it's a really good question, but it underlies a root problem. And the problem it really underlies is the definition of experience. If I pulled in 5 executives today and I said, what does customer experience mean? I'm going to get 10 different answers. And remember, 5, I got 10. Because no one knows, right? And we still run businesses like traditional organizations. The roles are still the same, right? I still have someone who's the head of marketing, head of sales, head of roles. Oh, okay, I'm back in.
You're back.
Thank you. I still have the same roles. And so everyone, because it is a new emerging field, is trying to figure out how do they play in it. Everyone believes that the work that they do contributes to the experience of somebody. So they all feel that they have a say in the outcome. I believe that the organizations who treat experience the same way they treat talent are the ones that are going to get this quicker than the others. So I say this frequently with folks, but consumers, suppliers, employees, humans, as my friends at BP will say, the human experience is more of a horizontal function of your organization. I don't see your individual business silos. I don't. I don't see that the product is being delivered by one group and it's being designed by one group and it's being built by one group and it's being marketed by a different group that has talent at a different group, right? I just see it as this is your brand. It's a horizontal, right? And so the companies that can kind of approach experience as a horizontal rather than within those verticals are the ones that are going to thrive, because the minute you put it into the verticals, unless you are amazing, and there's very few that are amazing at performance management, everyone is going to set their own goals, alignments, and expectations around their capabilities, and they will never align to a consistent, holistic story. So
exactly. And let's even go there and dive a little bit deeper into it. We talk to a lot of people about what they're doing in the experience world, either potential clients or at conferences or just getting to know other people in the industry. And I can count one time, Shawn, that we talked to somebody that when they told us about their org chart, we were like, oh, yeah, that's exactly what you should be doing. That's great. Every other time, it's a question of, well, where does experience go? Is it a marketing function? Is it an operations function? Is it an HR function? And then how many different places in the organization is there someone with experience in their job title, depending on how big the organization is? One time, and we've talked to a lot of people, did we say, oh, that makes a lot of sense. You should do it that way. So if you were to be able to design an org chart from scratch, and let's not say a startup yet, but if it were an established organization, 5-10 years, had a couple hundred employees at least, what would that org chart look like to make that horizontal function come to life?
Well, look, the big problem that you face is the org chart is the right step forward, Michael. It's the right step, right? And there are groups that are creating CX, right? And they're making CX. The problem is CX. No one knows what the hell it means, but the broader definition of CX is EX, CX, VX, S. You go through them all, right? But they make an organization called CX who has insight and oversight to all operations across the company to create that consistent visibility to the voice of the customer and how well they perceive your brand and the activities that go against it. That's a starting point, right? And there are those that do that. The problem is that that's a whole set of titles that most people don't know, right? There's not many, if any, college departments I know where kids are graduating with a CX degree, right? So where do you come from CX? Oh, well, customer support, brand and marketing, market research, customer experience. We all fight for it because we all have some type of it, but it is probably more of a data and analytics as it exists kind of phase one for companies. You have a data and analytics, just observe, understand, and translate it to report it back. So at least you create the visibility. But if I were to go work with any large organization now, startup to whatever, it is a worthless activity to create a CX group. It's a worthless activity. You go talk to any CX leader and they hate themselves, especially if they came from the design practice. Because what you find is that in that insight and oversight role, you have zero level of influence. You are it's what I call police versus firefighter. I'm telling you, Michael, you're wrong. You didn't do it right. Customers don't like you. I'm a police officer. I'm not there. I'm not the fireman who's helping you put out the fire. I'm there to give you a ticket for screwing up. You have no incentive to work with me. Right. And so I have really small groups. People don't look at my reports. And then what do? It's the same thing designers have done historically, where I do more shit. Sorry, I do more stuff. Right. I do more activities to try to prove my value and worth. I see the pattern over and over and over again, from when I was a consultant to now and sitting on the stage. I see it. That's what we do. Let's get another framework. Let's get another model. Let's get this. Let's prove this. Another dashboard, another tool. Doesn't help. What's going to help is the same thing that's always helped. It's super simple. You tie it to performance reviews. Just like HR has an impact on how much bonus you get paid, was I a good person to work with? If I was, I get 50% of that bonus. It's that carrot. You make the experience part of it, again, horizontal, but allow them to define what are the measures of success that everyone's bonus is tied to. Like, if as a company or as a group, you're not doing this, then it's worthless.
And then you get into employee experience, right? Of why would they want to even be motivated to hit their goals beyond money, right? Some folks are motivated by money, some are not, or more or less motivated.
I would say the employee experience, Mike's gone the opposite direction over the years. It's gone too far, right? Like, we have incentivized around employee experience. Like, do your employees enjoy working? What's your employee retention? Like, I, as a leader, will get fired if I have a high level of attrition. That's pretty straightforward, right? That's HR driving it. But let's say I have a high attrition because they're not the right culture fit. Not everyone has to like working with me. Not everyone has to like working for us. Some people just aren't the right fit. Shawn, you've owned this company for a while, and everyone who's in the door ain't going to be the right person. So,
well, and we talked about it. Disney. We used to say, "Go make magic someplace else," right? Like So
it also becomes an experience on the front end of how are you attracting your workforce? How are you interviewing them? How are you onboarding them? How are you making sure they're a cultural fit to save you money on the front end, right, instead of having to get 6 months in and let them go and train somebody else?
Oh, 1,000%. But here's the reality. I mean, look, I am a hiring manager who goes out and finds my own candidates on LinkedIn. I ping them directly and I say, I would like to talk with you. Most HR executives hate me because they're like, wait. That's my job to find them. That's my job to build. That's my job to onboard them. I'm like, look, they're working for me, not you. They want to know me, not you. They don't care about you.
That's right.
But again, it's the incentives, right? And so I would say I don't have the right answer on how do you do it from the employee side. But to Shawn's point, kind of around Disney, this came all the way back from my Amazon days. We rolled out something that we called 25-10. And I've tried to stick with it, right, wrong, or indifferent. And the 25-10 is this. For any of my managers, you need to have 25% growth within your team, your direct reports, year over year. That is impossible to do if you are a well-run organization on your team. If I had to take 25% of my directs and promote them every year, like they're all going to be SVP, EVPs in no time. So it needs to be a promotion either within the team, within the company, or within the industry. So I incentivize my leaders to encourage great culture fits, great talent, but not a right culture, to take a promotion outside the company. And I will give you your bonus for doing that. Because guess what? To go back to your thing about attraction, if there are great designers all across the industry and they all came from my company, guess what? Everyone's going to want to work with me because they know they can come spend a year with me and they're going to go on to better things. So there's that. And then the 10% is no more than 10% unplanned attrition. The key word there is unplanned. So I know when someone comes in 3 to 6 months, whether they're going to work or not. Like, look, how many times have you dated someone, either of you, and quickly realized that after 3 to 6 months, this person is not who they were on Tinder or OkCupid or Plenty of Fish. You're using. I don't care. Right? I was catfished. So it's the same thing with an employee. So that's planned versus unplanned. You come in, it's not working out. All right, how do I work you out? And as a leader, that's as much about the employee experience as not. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
So what about the org chart then? If we're not going to have an experience group separated within the org structure, what is the secret sauce for building experience into the organization?
What do you mean? So we don't have a separate horizontal experience group?
You said earlier, you said that the answer is not to.
Is making it a horizontal, just like you have HR. So think about it this way. HR doesn't create job recs, do they? Like I go to Shawn and Shawn says, I need someone. HR then says, okay, I'll fill that role. Right? They perform a function that's horizontal. They ensure consistency and quality of candidates that come in. The same goes with experience. Experience shouldn't be creating new experience. I should be working with all the businesses to say, oh, Michael, you're going to launch a new feature. Great. Let me talk about all the places it's going to touch. So we align everyone and we ensure consistency and quality across all of our touch points. That's what it needs to be. They, like HR drives incentives, annual performance incentives. Were you a good boss? Were you a good human? That's part of your pay. Did you drive a good experience? Did the outside like you? There's part of your pay. That's what I'm saying. If you don't do that, what's the option? Get really good about change management, I guess. Right. Which therefore goes, you need to create a steering. I mean, it's a ton of overhead.
Yeah. You're just dealing with the symptoms instead of the actual illness.
A steering committee to overlook it of senior enough folks who can then drive it down within their group. I mean, it's possible, but it's a nightmare.
Yeah, I'm so tired of hearing about, I had to take this to my steering committee, especially in the experience world. And as you know, Mike, we work a lot in healthcare. Mm-hmm. Michael and I do. I can't tell you how many conversations we have a week of, oh, I really want to do this, but I got to take it to my steering committee to get their approval. Well, aren't you the head of experience? Well, yeah, but I don't get to make the decision.
And that's, some regards, that's okay, but it's also a bad symptom, right? It means that your steering committee doesn't have a very clear definition of what are they steering. Like if I'm the steering committee, as I set up my company and companies I advise, the steering committee should be like your board of directors. They should have no connection to your business. They should have I should not be part of the design community, experience community, anything. I should have no emotional connection to it. I should be ensuring that our investments are sound and my returns are great. And so when I go to my steering committee, it's like, I want to invest $1 million in this work with, Shawn and Michael to drive this result. Great. Here's your bucket. Go figure it out. Bob's your uncle, right? Not every little step, because then it's a parent relationship. Then it's not a steering committee, it's a management relationship.
And that's a really good way of putting it. I like that. Because I think that's what, particularly what we see a ton in the healthcare space is like, not as much in other industries, but it becomes more of a management piece.
Dude, it's in every industry. I got an industrial client, it's there. I got an entertainment client, it's there. It's every industry. To go all the way back, gentlemen, and those listening, it's because I ask 5 people, what is experience? I get 10 different answers. So how do you manage something that we can't unanimously or with some level of consistency describe?
All right. One last question for you. What trends do we need to be paying attention to for 2023 and beyond? When it comes, I put Gen Z because I totally didn't change right, but to experiences. What do you say we need to be paying attention to right now?
Oh man. To The biggest trend that I cannot wrap my arms around, and you know me, Shawn and Michael, like I like to wrap my arms around stuff and become best friends with it. And the thing I can't wrap my head around and arms around, which tells me it's going to be big, is this idea of owning nothing. And what I mean is that right, wrong, or indifferent, influencers are driving the economy now. Period. Full stop. And when we think about experience, and like if we look at LTV, let's just take a simple thing like LTV. We all use LTV as a measure of success. LTV, when you switch to an influencer model, is a worthless measure because your LTV will go down, but your unique units will go up. I will have more customers come through my door. They may spend less. They may be with me less because people are jumping more frequently now. In the health and fitness space where I live, this is just case in point, right? Like pre-COVID, you would join a brand for 12 to 18 months. Like I would go to Barry's boot camp or Soul Cycle for a while. I would sign up and then I'd get bored and then I'd go somewhere else. Folks like Planet Fitness, 24 Hour, like they all thrived on this because they created ghost memberships where you forget to cancel. And then like 2 years later, like, why are we paying for that? But either way, what happened with COVID is that went from 12 to 18 to 6 to 8. People are jumping more. Like I'm only going to stick with it because I'm got that frequency. I'm finding new stuff. I mean, look, I bought a new shower head from TikTok yesterday.
I want that shower head, by the way, too.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's by the way, if you have a daughter with hair that can get curly, it's fantastic. It gets it all out. She loves it. Anyway, skipping ahead though, what that means though is because again we both bought something from TikTok. Is influencer driving the world, but the way you used to be able to buy an influencer, I used to be able to buy someone with 10 million followers. I used to be able to buy, and I would pay them to do a post. Hey, post this. I'll give you $1 million. Like Conor McGregor. Give Conor McGregor $1 million. He's going to do a post, and I'm going to have a certain amount of traffic. That is somewhat true still. But the problem is with the new feeds, they've kind of democratized it, where now anyone, and I'm going to tie this to how this fits into experience and product. Anyone can go and do a post about your product, and it will appear potentially with the same frequency of Conor McGregor. The more likely you are to know that person, the more likely you're to have a higher level of engagement and loyalty with that brand. And so what that means is if that person did not have an authentic relationship with your brand and your experience, they're not going to say something. You can't go out and do marketing like you traditionally would from a spend. Like, oh, I'm going to spend 10 million on marketing this year, because it doesn't work. So 2 brands that we just spoke with this week, Siete and Ghost, they actually have taken their marketing budgets and they basically cut them down to like 20% and shifted the entire thing over to influencer. And the influencer market, get this, is not just driving marketing. Like how do we get them to talk about us? What are they talking about? Sending boxes, like, these boxes that come in the mail that get you to talk about them, or the mugs, product drops there. But it's also from productization. How do influencers drive what I'm going to include in my product? What are the features I'm going to include? What's that experience need to be? No longer is my product management team driving my product roadmap. Influencers are. So what's the biggest trend I look at is like saying that maybe we don't own it anymore. And then when you take that a step further to 2024, Shawn, if I can, just well, when you start to release that, then you start to go to this place where it's becoming more commonplace domestically. It's been bigger internationally for a while, but the idea of a super app, where then you actually say, well, if influencers are driving my products, then I need to realize that my product sits within an ecosystem. Therefore, I want to own the platform that all the other parts of that ecosystem exist to better serve that influencer. And so I think that is, as we look forward, that's then ultimately what we have to do, where it's like we don't even control what's in the platform anymore.
I love
we
it.
give up as we go forward. But that scares me because I don't know what that means. And to go back all the way to the point of like, why is CX an experience a problem? Because I can't control it. I don't know what it means. When you get to the place of like, you control know nothing, then it's even crazier.
Yeah. Wow.
Anyway.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for all of this. It like totally like that last bit of nugget around that you own nothing is powerful. Well, hang out here. Michael and I are going to wrap up the show, and then we'll say bye
Real
to
quick
you.
plug, Shawn. If anyone listening is going to be in New York City and wants to get healthy come end of 2022, you need to come check out the Honeycomb.
Well, how about this? Before your grand opening, we'll have you back on the show, and we'll talk about the grand opening. Who knows? Maybe Michael and I may travel to New York City and do the show at the grand opening. Because, Michael and I have 10 million followers each, Mike. So, all right, well, hang out, buddy.
Guys, so perfect. We'll see you guys.
Yep, hang out there, and we will be right back with you, bud. All right, Michael. Well, awesome. You own nothing. That trend still blows me away. Let me just go through some quick announcements before we finish up for the day. Next week, we're going to have him back. Todd Unger, Chief Experience Officer, SVP of Marketing and Member Experience for the American Medical Association. We had him once. We're having him back. And the podcast next week with Rachel Beck, an influencer, as we were talking about influencers, LinkedIn influencer, humanizing your business relationships. And also the Mophie Academy, navigating conflict for good. Get out there to mophie.co and register for that for us. As well, as I said, mophie.co or ShawnNason.com. You can always email us at hello@mophie. Don't forget about the podcast, and don't forget about connecting with Michael and I on LinkedIn. But most importantly, if you play in the experience ecosystem, we want you. Again, email us at hello@mophie.co. We'd love to have you on the show with us. Michael, any big plans for the weekend?
Nothing yet. Nope. Nice and quiet.
Well, nice and quiet. Stay warm, and I will see you next week.
All right.
All right, buddy.